you guys, it's Cece. Welcome back to another video. Today we're playing some Raid Shadow Legends and we are going to be talking about the best epic void champions in the game. There are a lot of great epic champions in the game, and one way that you can actually get one for free is by downloading Raid Shadow Legends using my link down below or scanning the QR code on the screen. By doing that, I'm going to send you Elenaril on day 1, and she's actually a free legendary champion, which you can only get exclusively on day 1 by using my link. But at level 25, I'm going to send you Uugo, and Uugo is an amazing support epic unit that you would definitely want on your team. I did make a video talking about the best epics in the game, so be sure that you do check that one out. But for today, we're going to look at the void side of things. Our first void champion on this list is going to be Maneater. So he is an HP epic. His aura increases ally HP in dungeons by 33%, which is nice to have more HP. First skill does attack an enemy and places a 50% decrease attack debuff on all enemies if the attack is critical. So the nice thing is that he only attacks once, but if he's able to crit, it's going to do the decreased attack debuff on everybody, which is an amazing skill. His second skill does attack an enemy, fully depletes the target's turn meter, and fills this champion's turn meter by the amount that they were able to deplete. So again, this is one of those skills that's really good. Even though he's only attacking one enemy, he's able to completely reduce their turn meter, and then filling up his own is great because that kind of leads us into the skill 3, where the champion, if he receives damage, he places an unkillable buff and block debuff allies on all allies for 2 turns. So the damage received is equal to 5% max HP for each ally alive. But the fact that he's able to place that unkillable buff is something that is very, very useful, especially if you are in dungeons and you get one of those like critical hits that can potentially take your team out. If he's able to have that unkillable buff on you, it keeps them alive even longer. So Maneater is definitely a unit who is super useful for something like Clan Boss, but you can also use him in so many different dungeons that he is a unit that you would definitely want. Next on this list is going to be Godseeker, who is a defense epic, but is such a good support and very, very versatile for teams. So her first skill attacks an enemy and heals the ally with the lowest HP by 5% of their max HP. And although this cannot heal this champion, it's nice because it's a first skill heal that she'll be able to provide to her team, which is super useful. Second skill attacks all enemies and heals all allies by 15% of their max HP, while decreasing the duration of all buffs on all enemies by a turn, but increasing the duration of all buffs on allies by a turn. So having this be an AoE, having it be supportive in the sense that it's going to increase buffs for your team while decreasing buffs for the enemy is a really nice skill to have. Her third skill, we love a revive. Absolutely love a revive in a champion. Revives a dead ally with 50% HP, fills their turn meter by 50%, but also resets the cooldown of all their skills. So the fact that whoever she revives, she's going to be able to reset all of their skills is absolutely huge. She does also have the third skill slash passive, so the passive part of it is going to increase the amount of healing that allies receive by 10%. So that right there, you'll see it's going to provide more of a heal, and keep in mind she has a heal on her first skill, which is fantastic. The active effect part of it is that if an ally is about to get hit with a fatal hit, then she's going to come in and place a revive on death before that happens, and essentially it's going to revive that ally. So if your ally is about to die and it knows it's going to be one of those hits that's going to be fatal, it's going to take him out, if she's able to use this skill and it's not on cooldown, having a revive on death is huge because it is going to allow your team to survive even longer. And again, just looking at all her skills, great unit. You do want to build her fast so you're able to take advantage of all the support and the heals that she does, but honestly, a fantastic supportive defensive unit. Next on this list is Whisper. So she is an attack epic, and when I say attack, I mean attack. She does so much damage output. We're going to look at her skills and I'll tell you guys why. So her aura does increase ally attack in dungeons by 29%. First skill attacks an enemy and has a 50% chance of placing a 25% weaken debuff for 2 turns, keeping in mind that this can go up with the books that you're putting into her. Second skill attacks an enemy and places a 50% increase attack buff and 30% increase crit buff on this champion for 2 turns before attacking if the target has a higher HP than this champion. It will also ignore defense if the target is under a weaken debuff. So that going into that first skill, if you're able to place that weaken debuff, then that second skill is going to also ignore defense. But the fact that she's got the self buff in there right away shows you that you're only going to need to build her with like 70% crit rate because she will give herself an additional 30%. So it does make her a little bit easier to build. And keeping in mind that if the enemy has a higher HP than this champion, and since she's an attack type, most likely that is something that is going to happen. Third skill, attacks one enemy 2 times, and it grants an extra turn if the target is under decreased defense and weaken debuffs. So that right there, the fact that she's able to grant herself an extra turn if these things happen, which ideally you're going to build her in a way so you are able to actually land these debuffs to take advantage and actually get that extra turn. Now, she also has a passive where she gets a 10% chance of granting an extra turn whenever the champion lands a critical hit. Increases damage inflicted on bosses by 20%. I feel like she is one of those champions that it is hard to compare her to another champion that can do that much damage output just from herself alone. She's not really requiring anybody else to actually increase her attack or increase her crit. She does that all on her own, and that is part of what makes her so good. We can't talk about Void Epics without talking about Detha, of course. So looking at Detha, she is an epic support, and her aura increases ally defense in all battles by 20%. Her first skill does attack an enemy 2 times, but each hit is actually going to place a shield buff for 2 turns, which is equal to 10% of the champion's max HP on the ally with the lowest HP, apart from herself. So having that first skill, being able to provide that shield buff, is a really great supportive skill to have, especially on a skill 1. Her second skill is a very, very good heal because it increases the duration of ally buffs by a turn and decreases the duration of ally debuffs by a turn. But it also heals all allies by 2.5% of their max HP, healing a further 2.5% max HP for each turn added to or removed from the duration of buffs and debuffs by this skill. So a lot of potential in this skill to be able to actually heal the team, which is great. But her skill 3 also places a block damage buff on allies for a turn and a 15% continuous heal on all allies for 2 turns. So you're going to block the damage, you're going to have the continuous heal in there as well. So overall, looking at all of her skills together, she's got this shield on the skill 1, she's got a continuous heal on her skill 3, but then also her skill 2 being able to provide a really good heal for the team. Detha is a unit that you can use in a lot of places. She is very key in some clan boss teams, but you can also use her in a number of dungeons and doom towers. So she is honestly a very good support. Last but not least on this list is going to be Aemm, who is an epic attack type, does have an aura where it increases ally speed in all battles by 18%. And then first skill does attack an enemy 3 times, but each hit has a 40% chance of placing a 5% poison debuff for 2 turns. And we do like having that poison debuff. It's part of why we like Elenaril so much, who is that free legendary champion you can actually get by using my link, so keep that in mind. If the target is under a hex debuff, each hit also has a 40% chance of applying a debuff spread effect, taking a random debuff from the target and placing it on all enemies. That's like huge to have in a first skill. The fact that if there's a debuff on one of them, it's going to spread to all of them is great. Plus having the chance that if it's under hex, which means it's going to tie into another skill. So looking at the second skill, attacks all enemies 3 times. So it's an AoE attacking 3 times. Each hit has a 60% chance of increasing the duration of any hex debuffs on enemies by a turn. If enemies are not under the hex debuff, each hit has a 60% chance of placing the hex debuff for 2 turns. So you'll see it's saying that essentially if they do have the hex, it'll extend that duration. And if they don't have it, then it's going to have the chance of actually placing it on there. And the great thing about having the hex debuff, essentially champions under this are going to take damage whenever their allies do. So this is essentially just a way for you to spread damage out, which is fantastic. Does have a passive as well where it has an 80% chance of inflicting damage from 1 poison debuff to enemies under the hex debuff whenever their allies receive damage from poison debuffs. So again, you'll see all of his skills working really well together, but having the hex in there is like really huge on a champ. Also having that poison that he's able to place on there does make this a very good attack type. You will be able to use him in multiple places in the game. You can use him in different things like clan boss, you can use him in dragons, you can I think those are like the main places he shines, but you can use him in different dungeons and you can essentially make him a part of different teams to really be able to take advantage of something like that hex or the poison in there. I do think he's pretty versatile, and like even using him in something like I said, clan boss or Hydra, so good. With so many great champions in the game, it's honestly so hard to only pick 5, but that is where you guys come in. So comment down below and let me know who are some of your favorite epic Void champions, and be sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on the legendaries who are going to be coming next. Speaking of legendaries, remember you can always download Raid Shadow Legends using my link below or scanning the QR code on the screen. so that you do start your account off on day 1 with a free legendary named Elenaril. And don't forget, we're also going to toss in Uugo once you're level 25 to make your start that much easier. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!
Next level.